In the 90s, man, like everything was a Softail. The whole model range just kind of faded away. It was one of our like centerfold bikes. Part of the reason I remember it so vividly is because it was so ugly. They are kind of like the OG purveyors of air suspension. But man, these things look awesome. In today's version of chopper hygiene, we're gonna show you how to shave your legs. Powder coat's finally done, the frame got done, and the front end stuff got done basically at the same time. So now we have a frame, we have our front end parts back. You know, our latheless leg shaving turned out really, really good. So smooth. In almost any situation in life, lube is critical. Everything is looking a little bit on the dark side, you know, as far as like now we have a black trees, we have black legs. You know, we're not blacking this bike out, but I think everything's coming together really, really nice. We got some wheels and we can start putting this thing into a roller. For all the Dyna bros, these bars are for you. Not really, I just really like using Biltwell risers and tracker bars. The final assembly, honestly, is kind of the hardest part. We went, you know, off the books with it, and we just started cutting things off the frame and cutting up fenders and grabbing gas tanks from chopper dudes down the street. Handlebars don't need socks. Hats for bats. Oh yeah. I'm gonna tape all this off just so it maybe will stop me from scratching the bejesus out of it. And then we'll see if we can get this motor and trans slid in there. Paint day is like a big day every time. It never gets old getting paint back. It's quite literally like bike builder Christmas getting paint back. Our dude Chad over at Copperhead Graphics, he always comes through for us. So I'm really stoked to see what we got. And that is pretty much perfect. I said, I want something metal flake and choppery, and I haven't even looked at the tank yet, but I already know he nailed it. Tattoo artists and painters love to do their job. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that, little Easter egg. Gotta love that. That's gonna be pretty slick. We didn't Frisco mount the tank, but it's gonna be a cool little added detail underneath there. That's awesome. Can't go wrong with metal flake and choppers. I really liked the blue and the silver, and there's a black pinstripe on it. There's lace ghosted in and some real slick design on it. And it's simple, but it's also a little bit intricate. And I just think it fits this bike really, really perfect. So before I get that belt drive on there, I'm gonna go ahead and mount up the Legends air shocks. I need to get that belt drive put in so I can then put the starter in, so then I can put the oil tank in, so then I can locate some of my wiring. With the sprocket put on the transmission for the chain conversion. So once I get that belt drive, then I can start doing some of the cake decorating, putting all the chrome bits on, putting all the PM doodads on that we have, you know, the fun part, decorating the cake. if you're doing a charging system on your bike, putting this little rotor over your stator is an excellent way to pinch your shit out of your fingers. So I recommend holding it with your fingers, not on the edge back there. Because once this gets close enough, it just goes. See, it felt. A lot of times they're a lot stronger. They'll go wham. I don't care who you are, don't believe it if you see a build going like perfectly smooth from start to finish. It rarely happens, and that's fine. Ours has not been without, you know, its pains. Things like I didn't order the right tube for the type of rim that I had, so I had to get another one of those. All right, well, this is gonna be officially gonna be a nightmare. We have the same problems that, you know, every other garage builder has. Watch this fucker not line up. There we go. Think of it as a Loctite baptismal situation for your bolts. Wet tightening. That is a wet bolt, and I am tightening it. Wet tight. Like a lot of belt drives, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking or just a plain old pain in the ass. I swear to God, it's worse. We got a big problem over here. Because those belts are tight, there's not a lot of movement in there. You kind of got to get the clutch basket and the front pulley on simultaneously. And then, you're trying to hit splines in there, and it just can be very frustrating. Like a glove. Wiring is always kind of like a big question mark, even though you've done it before, because you want to make sure, especially on a bike like this, that everything's real kind of clean and minimalist. We just need headlight wires going up there, but I don't want to run them on the outside of the frame. Try to keep things as clean as we can. So we'll drill a little hole here, cut it at an angle. We'll double check and shove this up there one more time. We want to keep wiring to a minimum, but we also want to make it slick. So you're kind of worried about where you're going to hide it, and you don't know if it's going to work until it's done, and you check everything. So have some question marks about the wiring. We just need to jump in and get her knocked out. And it's looking like a motorcycle, which is great. Now we just gotta, pour the coals to it and get us down the home stretch. I'm stoked to see this thing fire. Our Moto Gadget M unit here is really slick. Got lights on the box, that's good. So this whole deal here wasn't supposed to be like this, but trying to keep everything tight and not scattered all over the place. We ended up with the key up here over the coil, and then I added the start button, which I think is pretty clean. But now, moment of truth. Woohoo! That is progress. But there's a couple kinds of fun. There's the kind of fun like whenever you're experiencing something, it's fun. And then there's another kind of fun when you look back on it, then you're like, that was pretty cool. And that's what building a motorcycle is. You're really, just neck deep in building this motorcycle. There's always trials and tribulations and little things and things that need threaded and tapped and wires that don't work. But then that sense of accomplishment when it's done, though, that you built it with your two hands, it's like a warm hug. Nice little Biltwell taillight here. We're gonna put this bad boy right there like that. I kind of went back and forth on pipes on this. I really wanted to use kind of like a sort of like old, you know, like high mount straight pipes and this and that. And what I ended up with was a Cobra El Diablo. We've used this pipe on other builds, really like it. It kind of works in a lot of places and it has this like kind of classic look to it at the same time being a 2-into-1, which is gonna work really well with that 96-inch S&S motor. And I'm stoked we went with that. It sounds good, it looks awesome. This is exhausting work. I'll be here all week, tip your waitresses. One of the very last things is the gas tank. You put the gas tank on there and all of a sudden it just comes together. You know, it becomes a reality, which is great. I want to go ride it right now. We're gonna start this thing. We're gonna need a throttle. Before we get this sucker lit, wipe off them pipes. Yeah. All right, let's, moment of truth. Kick tires and light the fires. Let's go racing. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Is that trademark? Yeah! Oh, it's purring now. And then as far as intake, I couldn't not use an S&S teardrop. Bike like this just needs just that classic shiny teardrop. And again, it worked perfectly. I'm super happy with how that turned out. At least in my opinion, this is the coolest this bike's ever looked in its entire life. Like I say, building motorcycles is my second favorite thing to do. My first favorite thing to do is go ride it. So that's what I want to do now. Just want to get out, throw a leg over this thing, and get out in the sunshine. We found our own personal barn find in our own storage unit. Man, it just, you know, it kind of warms my heart to drag that thing back out, give it new life. You know, it was a former catalog bike from the mid-2000s, and here it is again, has new life, and it's back on the street and gonna bring some smiles for miles. Compared to what it was before, I mean, no offense to that old JMP Cycles catalog, but this bike's way cooler.